Your track bag still smells like sweat and rosin, but there's cash inside now. A man in a leather jacket says, "Sponsorship," and slides you a phone number instead of a contract. Outside, the streetlights buzz over black Volgas and new money. This is your life, level by level, inside a post-Soviet PMC. Level 1. The Star Athlete Recruit, 1991–1992. Your name opens doors your hands shouldn't touch. They recognize you before you speak. A regional Sambo medalist. A boxer with a local newspaper photo. That fame gets you waved through lobbies where the marble is new and the men are old. Your days start normal: training hall, cold showers, cheap tea, then shift into protection. You stand outside a bank office that used to be a party committee. You escort a businessman's kid to school number 57 and keep your eyes on the courtyards. You ride in the back seat, silent, while your client talks numbers up front. In 1992, somebody mentions law number 2487-1 like it's a blessing. Licenses, MVD inspections, a stamped ID card. Then the same man pays you in crisp cash and says the paperwork is for the front desk. You tell yourself it's security. You tell yourself it's honest work. You tell yourself your face makes you safe. But you learn who owns the building, who provides the kreisha, and how often the patrol car outside is part of the rent. Your smile becomes a mask that never comes off. Level 2. Licensed Guard, Unlicensed Muscle, 1992–1994. The uniform is legal. The errands aren't. The blazer fits tight across your shoulders, and the plastic badge makes you look official from 10 meters away. By day you sit a post lobby chair, radio on your belt, visitor log with squared-off handwriting. By night you're back in a tracksuit, leaning against a stairwell that smells like cigarettes and boiled cabbage. You learn procedures that sound clean. Radio discipline. 2 in, 1 out. Park the car nose out for a fast exit. Don't be the first through a doorway unless you're disposable. You memorize the curb lanes on Tverskaya, the back entrances, the spots with working cameras. Moscow feels like open season. Colleagues trade stories. A banker shot at a traffic light, a case that goes nowhere, a witness who suddenly forgets. Your real work is collections. A talk with a debtor. A quiet visit to a shop owner who missed a payment. You tell yourself it's just pressure. You tell yourself nobody gets hurt if they cooperate. You tell yourself you're preventing worse. The badge buys you access, and the access buys you habits that don't wash off. Level 3. The Instructor, ex-spetsnaz Pipeline, 1994–1996. You stop being guarded and start being used. The training site isn't a gym. It's a rented warehouse with taped-off corners and a kettle that never stops boiling. The men running it don't brag. They correct angles. They watch your hands. One has an old Vimpel patch tucked inside a bag like it's contraband. The drills feel like protective services on paper, but the rhythm is different. Buddy pairs, bounding between cover, silent signals with 2 fingers, a fist, a palm down. Room entry basics with a plywood door and a shouted, "Clear," that always sounds late. Even your breathing gets coached: slow, quiet, counted. Outside, the first Chechen war is everybody's background noise. A cousin sent south. A neighbor's funeral. Your firm suddenly gets requests for men who can travel without existing on paper. You carry different names for different jobs. Phones that get tossed. Volunteer. Language that means nothing and protects everything. You tell yourself it's just training. You tell yourself it's for survival. You tell yourself you earned this. Then you realize it isn't a promotion. It's a door closing behind you, softly, like a bolt sliding into place. You've learned the badge, the muscle, the drills. Next, you're given a group to command and one mistake becomes evidence. Somebody always holds the tape. Level 4 Field Team Lead, Commandeer Gruppy, 1996–1998. You stop taking orders one by one and start issuing them with names attached. The first time they call you commandeer, it's casual. Said over instant coffee in a chipped mug, in a back room behind an office that pretends it's consulting. Your team waits in the hallway with kit bags at their feet, Makarovs in cheap shoulder holsters, IFAKs bought with your own money, radio earpieces that crackle when the elevator moves. Your days are route sheets and rehearsals. You ride the route twice, then a third time at a different hour. You mark choke points, Leninsky Prospect intersections, a blind turn by a market, a courtyard that echoes. You assign positions. Driver, close protection. Rear, you check hands for tremor. You check eyes for sleep. Now the work has paperwork and ghosts. After every job you write a report that says, no incidents, even when you had to put a man on the pavement to keep a trunk closed. You tell yourself it's discipline. You tell yourself it's responsibility. You tell yourself you can keep everyone alive if you plan hard enough. But leadership is just violence with a schedule, and the calendar never stops turning. Level 5, the deniable operator, Chechnya-style work, 1998-1999. You become useful precisely because nobody can admit you exist. A minivan with dusty curtains collects you before dawn. No company logo. No plates you recognize twice. They hand you a new passport cover, a different surname, and a phone that only has 3 numbers: 1 to call, 1 to answer, 1 to destroy. You live out of plastic bags and small routines. Shave with cold water. Tape your blisters. Keep your rifle wiped even when the air tastes like diesel. The jobs are described in blanks: escort, recovery, observation. You move through places where the asphalt is patched like scar tissue: Rostov staging lots, cramped safe apartments, airfields that smell of kerosene and wet plywood. The burden is deniability. No uniforms, no medals, no hospital paperwork if something goes wrong. You learn how to pass checkpoints with the right tone and the right folded document. You tell yourself it's contract work. You tell yourself it's separate from the wars on the news. You tell yourself you're only doing what's written. Then you realize the ink is always washable, and you're the rag. Level 6 Operations Chief, Handler, 1999-2000. You stop pulling triggers and start moving people like pieces that can talk back. The office is finally quiet. Thick door, 2 phones, a fax machine that screams at night. On the wall, a map with pins and colored string like a school project, except each pin has a name that can disappear. Your mornings are briefings and denials. You meet clients in hotel lobbies where the carpets are too clean, then you meet your own people in parking garages where the concrete sweats. You run checklists: ammo counts, vehicle rotations, cash advances, medical cover stories. You keep copies of licenses and contracts that look legitimate to an MVD inspector who doesn't look too long. Power feels like distance. You don't kick doors now, you decide who does. You decide who gets a driver who can shoot, and who gets a driver who will panic. You decide which incident becomes a traffic dispute, and which becomes no record. You tell yourself it's management. You tell yourself it's protection. You tell yourself you're preventing chaos by controlling it. But every order leaves your mouth clean and comes back stained in someone else's hands. By the end, you can't tell where the job ends and the reflex begins. The city's neon, the kettle's hiss, the weight of a pistol under fabric, those details stay sharper than faces. Rank only changes the distance between you and the consequence. You learn to speak in procedures because feelings create evidence. And evidence always belongs to somebody else.